It's time for the Unexplained News. Extraterrestrials, time anomalies, dimensions, remote viewing, UFOs, UAPs, and USOs, ghostly encounters, abductions, Bigfoot, and more. Your end of the week news source for everything unexplained. Here is your host for the Unexplained News podcast, Margie K.
Good evening and welcome to Unexplained News. I'm your host, Margie K, and we are here every Friday evening at 6 p.m. I would like to invite you to join the Unexplained Network with an official membership. If you go to unexnetwork.com, you'll see all of the different levels of membership that you can get. And one of the things we do is a daily newsletter. So you see a listing of all the shows coming on that evening. And of course, we've got our bi-monthly magazine that we do, the blog with lots of good articles. So we're not just a broadcasting network. We're a media company. We've got a lot going on. Plus, we publish books, and we've got some new books up. And one of them is All Monsters Are Human by Derek Smith. Another one is How to Research a Haunted House by myself and Violet Wisdom. And we've got a lot more on various subjects that are ready to go. So unexmedia.com is the place to go to see our book listing. My guest tonight is June Lundgren. She was raised by her maternal grandmother, a psychic medium. She grew up communicating with ghosts, spirits, angels, animals, and seeing demons in their true form. June has been helping people with their paranormal concerns for many years. She started removing demons after she died in a motorcycle accident in 1986. And June specializes in negative entity removal. June is a psychic medium, demon seer, animal communicator, international author, paranormal investigator, television and radio personality, and founder of Ghosts and Girls Paranormal. Welcome to the program, June.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Well, thank you so much for joining me this evening. There aren't very many people out there that say they are demon seers. So I'm going to ask you, of course, the normal question that I ask everyone: how did you get interested in this subject?
Well, when I was a little kid, I was like, my grandmother raised me for the first 5 years of my life. And she was a psychic medium, and she knew there was a prophecy that was handed down in our family from the 14th century. And she knew the minute that she held me that I was the fulfillment of the prophecy. The prophecy was there would be a girl child that would be born and be able to see, hear, communicate, and remove demons. And so when she held me, she knew that I was the one. So for the first 5 years, she taught me everything she knew. And of course, I've always been able to communicate and see Michael the Archangel and the others, Gabriel, Raphael. And of course, I could see demons, but up until I was about 4.5, I saw them as most humans do. Either, kind of a black blob or shadow type person, that sort of thing. But it changed for me when I was about 4.5. I saw them in their true forms. And Michael came to me and he said, you're seeing them through the eyes of an angel. You have to understand, this is how we see them. We see them as they truly are. They make humans see them as they wish to be perceived, but they can't do that with you. And so I've been dealing with, I've been watching demons and learning about them. Michael said, when I was 5, he said, I want you to watch them. I want you to learn how they work because you're going to need it later in life. And I'm like, okay, when you're a kid, you think, oh, it's a game. So, you start watching them, start listening to them because they speak in Aramaic and my brain is hardwired to interpret. So I hear their speech. I hear what they're saying. And they can't hear me if I don't want them to hear me. So the first time I actually dealt with one as one-on-one was when I was in the military. I was working in the emergency room, and we had a call that came in for a young man who was missing, and nobody had seen him for like 3 days. So we got a call from the tech sergeant, said, we're going to open up his room, because I'm sure they were afraid that he was dead in there. But so we went in, I opened up the door, and I could see the young man curl up in a ball against the wall. And then I heard a sound, and over to the left, I saw a demon floating up in the corner. I told the tech that was with me, I said, we need to get him out of here, and we need to get him out of here now. So we got him out of there, took him back to the hospital, and put him in one of the rooms, exam rooms, and I went to get something to start an IV. And when I came back in, the demon was leaning over him, trying to take out his life force.
Oh my.
That was the first time when, unbeknownst to me, Ariel, the archangel, came forward, and she told him, this one belongs to us, not you. And whatever he saw in my face, he left in a hurry. But so I started the IV, and I saw him. He had spent about a week in the hospital. I found out somebody had he was a chaplain's assistant, and he was at a party. Somebody had put PCP in his soda.
Oh, that'll do it.
So he was out of it for like 3 days solid. So I saw him before he left, and he said, you know what? He says, I had this dream. He said, in this dream, a demon was trying to take my soul. And a female warrior angel, she was big, she was huge. And she told him, no, this one is not for you. This one belongs to us. She saved me. And I said, oh, well, that's just God's way of telling you he's got your back. Don't worry about it. And he went home.
Yeah, because you couldn't tell him the whole story.
No, because at that time, I wasn't aware of it. But in 1985, when I died in my motorcycle accident, a woman ran a red light and hit me, trashed my bike. But I went to the other side, and my grandparents were waiting for me, and Michael was waiting for me. And he says, you have to understand who and what you are. He said, you are not this physical being that you see. And then he touched my forehead, and I morphed into somebody else. I looked like him. Archangels are 7 foot tall, 12-foot wingspan, and they're just like so bright and they glow. And he says, this is who you truly are. He said, your body was created to hold the soul of Ariel, the archangel. She's a demon slayer. She was sent back to learn to live physical world lives, to learn to have compassion for mankind, because she had no compassion. And of course, for her, that's the worst of all things to happen, was to be in a physical shell. But he said, this is what you need to do. Your job is to start helping people, helping mankind. You're going to be battling demons. You're going to be killing them. And this is what you're supposed to do. And that was in 85, and I've been doing it ever since.
Wow. Okay, what a job.
Yeah, that's why I said, you're going to give me something airy-fairy? You have to give me something where I have to take out the trash? What's up with that?
You mentioned earlier the PCP that the young man had ingested.
Yeah.
Somebody gave him. How do drugs and alcohol affect people and make them more susceptible to possession, say?
Well, it opens them up. It's, where normally you would have a guard, you would guard your mind, you would be in total control of your mind. Mm-hmm. But when you have drugs on board, you're not in control anymore. It leaves you open. It's like opening a door. It's be like you or me opening our front door and saying, come on down. Yeah, everybody come on in. I'm going to unlock it and come on in. And that's all. And they just step right in.
And there could be some bad stuff in there.
Oh, yeah, a lot of bad stuff.
Have you ever dealt with children being possessed
Um,
or
not
attacked?
one child, a female child back east. Somebody, called me in for it, and I did the removal. But it's not as prevalent as people would believe, because they're more into adults, because adults can do more, they can cause more destruction. So that's really where it's at. And most people think, oh, if you have somebody that's possessed, it's 24/7. But really, it's not, because the dark ones don't want to be in a shell either. So they will come and go at will. But unless you have more, if you have more than one, then there's always going to be one, so to speak, in residence. I had a lady that had 11 of them for 20 years. And it was
Whoa.
just, she was like, when I got through with the removal, I removed 10 of them. And then there was the last one to get rid of. And didn't want to leave. So I didn't want to harm the woman, but I can look into the demon's mind and find out why it's there, how it found this person, why it found the person in the first place. And I found out that it had been given a job to do by Lucifer, and but didn't bother to do it. This just went on its merry way and said, screw you, basically. And Lucifer was looking for it.
Oh
And
my goodness.
I told the demon, I said, listen, you can go back into the light if you want. I said, but you have to really want it, and you have to be truly repentant for it. And it seemed responsive to that. So I said, Jesus, come forth. And I had two people with me. One was an ordained minister, and the other one is the other girl in my group. And they both stepped aside as this huge hand came out towards the woman. And I told the demon, I said, there you go. You can go into the light if you want to. But then it pulled back and said, no, I can never go home. I can never go to the light. And so I'm like, I'm not going to mess with it. I'm like, so be it. I said, Lucifer, come forth. And my friends kind of freaked out for a second as this figure came up the hallway. It appeared at the end of the hallway and advanced towards us. And what they saw was a dark figure with a fedora, double-breasted suit, spats, that type of thing. I saw it in its true form, but that's the image it wanted to project into their minds. So they saw Lucifer in that way. And Lucifer came towards the woman, and he told the demon, he called out his name and said, you come on with me. And the demon's like, no, I'm not coming. I'm not leaving. And Lucifer looked at me and said, I know you don't want me to harm the woman, so I will be back for it tonight. So he turned around, walked away, and disappeared. And so I told the woman, I said, they're all gone but one. I said, Lucifer will be back for it tonight. So we all went home, and we all woke up in our beds at 3 a.m. and heard Lucifer say, it's done.
Aha.
So I called the woman the next day, and she's like, I haven't felt empty like this in over 20 years. I said, please get some counseling. I said, you have PTSD from having these things within you. I said, get counseling. And she did.
And did she put some protection up?
Yeah. That's
Do you counsel people about that too?
Oh, yeah, because a lot of people think some of the stupidest things will protect you, and they won't. After dealing with them for, 48 years, I can tell you that some of the stupidest disinformation that's out there is ridiculous. Walk around in a circle backwards 3 times. That'll protect you. I'm like, oh, my God, really? Okay. I want to see that one.
What do you suggest people do for protection?
Well, there's a couple things that you can do. You can, of course, if you want to protect your home, you can get holy water and put the sign of the cross over each and every opening, window, door, and ask for protection and ask for God to protect it. You can I make a black salt the recipe was given to me by God and Jesus. And so I put, I make up the black salt, and I'll usually, if I'm going on a location, I'll take them the black salt, and you'll lay it down around the perimeter of your home, and it'll keep anything negative out.
Mhm.
And prayer is powerful, and then mentioning the name of Jesus and God is very powerful for protection. But some of the stuff white salt don't do anything. People think, oh, just put some white salt down. No, only if you want to keep a human ghost out, maybe.
Mhm.
I said, but it ain't going to help you with a dark one, not one little bit.
What do you know about the Hat Man? Is the Hat Man actually Lucifer?
No, he's a minion. That's the thing. He's Lucifer's. He's one of Lucifer's minions. But there is one that most people see, and it's like really tall and dark. It has this big hat on. It has red eyes. And
Mhm.
that's Lucifer's second in command.
Okay. I do
He
know
has,
several people who have
yeah,
seen it.
yeah, because he has his first in command, second, and third. And they keep things going.
Why do they attack people who are what you would say mostly good? They're very positive people.
Well, it's a challenge for them, really. It's like my friend who's ordained minister, and he had one attack him and try to attach itself to him, and I got rid of it. But the thing is, it's a feather in their cap if they can get someone who's a light worker or someone who is, has great faith. It's like it's a challenge for them to turn. They want to turn you against God, against the greater
Uh-huh.
good. That's what
Uh-huh.
it's all about. The thing is, most people don't understand that the war between heaven and hell, people think it's like, I don't know, they come up with the screwiest ideas. I can tell you from seeing it through Ariel's eyes that it was, we were all physical beings at one time, except, God and Jesus. But we were all physical beings at one time. And over the years, we evolved into pure energy. And then we traveled the galaxies for hundreds of thousands of years, saw everything you could see, experienced everything you could. And then one day, the people, the soul said, listen, we're tired of this. We've seen everything. We've done everything. We want to have physical bodies again. And Lucifer and his followers didn't want to have anything to do with that. Oh, no, no, you don't. We do not want that. We do not want to be subject to a shell where we can, suffer pain and disease and discomfort of any kind. We want to be free to travel. And so that's what started the war. And it was a war of light in the beginning because, Lucifer rose up against God, and Lucifer and his followers, his son, and there was a big battle, and Lucifer was disarmed by Michael, and Ariel disarmed his son. And God said, I'm going to give you exactly what you want. You're never going to be able to take on physical form, but you can't live among us. So he opened a rift into a dark realm, and he put him in there. And he told Lucifer, this is your kingdom now. And he sealed the rift, and there are two archangels that are guarding the rift, the opening. So that's actually what started the war between heaven and hell. And they attack physical beings because every physical being has a white light soul. And at first, when they were put in the dark realm, they were happy about it because, they could do their own thing. They weren't subject to anybody telling them what to do or anything. But over the hundreds of thousands of years, they grew angry and vengeful. Simple. They've become part of the darkness. And so they attack the white light souls because they feel that it's the white light souls that put them there in the first place. So they're going to make their life
Okay.
miserable.
Oh my goodness. I've got so many questions. So, is there any particular part of, well, we'll just say in the United States itself, that is more prone to demonic encounters?
Anywhere where there is a prison, any place where there's a mental institution, anywhere that there was a battle and blood was spilled, they're attracted to these locations. And anywhere where there's extreme death, you're going to find them there because it's like somebody just putting up a free beer sign. Come on down.
I often wonder, in a lot of my paranormal investigations, I'll run across, let's say we go to a cemetery, run across a few souls that are still hanging out there.
Yeah.
Are they subject to possession by remaining there or remaining on the earth after they pass?
They run the risk of becoming puppets for the dark ones if they're not strong enough. What'll happen is, like, say you have, I had someone I gave the black salt to, they laid it down and everything, and it kept out the dark ones. But there were human souls that were serving the dark ones, not on purpose. Basically, they were enslaved. And so they can get through the black salt because they're human souls. They're not demonic. Mm-hmm. And so they would cause the person to have nightmares, pull them out of bed, scratch them, do all kinds of things, whereas because the demons can't get to them. So they would send in a human soul.
Oh boy. Well, that's even more evil. Goodness. Yeah. There's a lot going on here.
Oh, yeah.
When I was younger, I was playing in a band, and about towards the end of the evening, I noticed these little, like 2-foot tall, demonic looking creatures with wings sitting up behind the bar. And at a certain time, they flew out and they flew into the top of the heads of 3 men on the dance floor, and they immediately changed their personality. Yeah. They wanted to fight. They were being very aggressive. It was obvious what had just happened. So do you have any tips for people who might be having too much alcohol?
Yeah, you have to be careful because those are what I call the creepy crawly dudes. They're the minions of the demons. They kind of like, I liken them to pimps because they look for victims.
Okay.
They go out and they find victims for their master, either a lesser demon or an old demon. But 9 times out of 10, it's a lesser demon. But you need to, people need to be aware that if suddenly somebody's whole attitude, temperaments change, then there's usually influence there from one of the dark ones, whether they're just like toying with you or whether they've made the idea, are investigating you. Because it's not like the demons they see you and they say, oh, this person's great, I'm just going to attach myself to that person. No, they will watch the individual. They will learn about them. They'll learn their weaknesses, their strengths, see how their faith is, what they want out of life, if they're easily influenced. And if they meet all the criteria, then the creepy crawly dude will run back and tell his boss. And then the boss will do much the same thing. He'll watch them, he'll test them, he'll, see what's important to them, what's not important to them, what they can use as leverage against you. But if they find that they're not good enough, if they don't make a good victim, then the lesser demon will slap the minion upside the head. They'll look for another victim.
So is the ultimate goal to get them to cross over to the dark side?
Yeah, they want to create as much hell on earth for them as they can. And usually the symptoms of the attachment are, everything starts going in the toilet. Your finances go in the toilet. Your relationships go in the toilet. Your health goes in the toilet. That's how they work. They're all about causing all of this And their idea is to isolate you, to take away your support system, and people that would
Right.
help you, people that would be close to you, and so that you
Mhm.
have nobody to help you. And then they start working on your brain. They start telling you you're never going to get away, you're never going to get rid of them, that God's forsaken you, and you belong to us, so you might as well start doing what we want.
Nice messages.
Oh yeah, they're really
Goodness.
interesting. Yeah.
Okay, folks, we're up on a break. We will be back right after these messages.
Behind every ghost story and creature feature lies a far more terrifying truth. The real monsters wear human faces. In the chilling book, All Monsters Are Human, from Derek Smith, 10 Twisted Tales expose the darkest parts of the human soul. From killers hiding in plain sight to obsessions turned deadly. Each story invites you to step into a shadowed world where morality unravels, and the only thing more terrifying than what lurks in the dark is who. These aren't just horror stories. They're reflections of ourselves, showing what happens when fear, rage, guilt, and desire take control. Visit unexmedia.com for more information on All Monsters Are Human from Derek Smith. And you can purchase them at amazon.com from unexmedia.com.
And we're back with the next news. I'm your host, Margie K. And this evening, my special guest is June Lundgren. And we are talking about the dark side of the paranormal. June, you also have a paranormal investigation group. Tell us about that.
Yeah, years ago, I formed one that was different because I was a member of several different paranormal investigation groups, but none of them, well, most of them didn't want to deal with the dark ones or anything dark. So I formed my own group called Ghosts and Girls Paranormal, and it's just it's what it began with just me and another girl, and we've just recently added one more to the group. But we specialize in negative entity removal and identification.
Mm-hmm.
And I can do removals from a distance. And a lot of the ones that I do are from a distance because, I can't fly to Florida or I can't fly to South Carolina or one of the other places, So if people send me a picture of a location or a picture of the individual, then I can do the removal. I can see what's there and remove it.
And here's your logo.
Yep.
That's cute. So you don't have to be on site. Is it easier if you're on site?
No, it's just as easy for me to do either way. Like I went to England for the first time in 2017, and there was a place there called The Cage. It was a medieval women's prison. It was the most haunted location in all of England.
Hmm.
And they had demons there and stuff. And I was over there, and a friend of mine says, "Hey, give me a call." And I said, "I can't. I'm in the UK." And she's like, "Well, maybe you can help this woman." And I'm like, "Okay." She says she has, demons in the location in her house. I'm like, "All right, just, send me her information and I'll contact her." So I did. I contacted her and she says, "Usually I don't bother to answer people regarding this." And I said, "Well, just send me a picture of the location and I'll do the removal." So later that day, she sent me a picture of the location and I removed it while I was on the treadmill. Got to exercise.
Oh my goodness.
And she talked to me. She said, "I've got a famous American psychic coming in tomorrow to go through the house, and he doesn't deal with darkness." And I'm like, "Well, he can come in." I said, "I removed everything." I said, "So," and she said it was Chris Fleming. And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. He doesn't do dark." I said, he can come in. There's no problem now." And so he came in the next day, and she got a hold of me afterwards and said, "You're right. There's nothing left there. There was nothing. He couldn't feel anything negative left there." I said, "I do good work. Come on."
Yeah. You know what you're doing.
Yeah. But I've had to remove demons from there a couple times, 2 or 3 times, and until it was, they finally sold it. And then I spoke with the people that bought it, like in the beginning of this year, and walked through them with it. So I did the removal once again for the location so that they could, not have problems.
You mentioned that prisons and mental facilities are uh, commonly commonly have problems with demonic entities. Is it because of when the people were alive that they were attacked or possessed by these things and they hung around after people died? Why is that?
There's a lot of anger there. There's a lot of fear there. There's a lot of hate there. All of the negative emotions that attract these things that feed them. They basically feed off of the negative emotions. And so, it's like a candy store for them. Manson had the demon with him until the day he died. I mean, the other prisoners didn't want anything to do with him at all because, you can imagine, because the demon's sitting there with him.
Oh, yeah, I could see it when I looked at his face. It was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
We got a question from the chat. What are the invisibles in hollow trees? And they live in my yard, and my parents get very ugly at night. Why?
Usually, what you're going to find in the hollows of the trees are the elementals. They're, different kinds. Usually, what you or I would call a gnome, but little short guys. But they can be very mean and nasty if you're disrespecting the land or the water, the trees, animals, anything like that. If you're disrespecting it, they can be pretty darn nasty. I'm telling you, they can even attack you. Look at Lep Castle over in Ireland. They can do it.
Oh, tell us that story.
Well, I just know that there's one there. I was supposed to fly to Ireland, and I ended up not going because we were late getting to the airport. But I did remove a demon from Hampton Court, which was the summer house of Henry VIII.
Yeah.
I ran into Henry while I was there. I have my friend Howard Hughes. He used to do the Unexplained files. He's recently crossed, but he took me on a tour of it because he lived by it. And he said, "Really, I want you to go with me and we'll do an interview at Hampton Court." So my son was with me and we went to Hampton Court and we had lunch. They have like a cafeteria. So we had lunch and then we walked into the main hall. And the minute we opened the door into the main hall, another door opened to the left of me at the end. And out pokes Henry VIII. And he took one look at me and he said, "Witch." I'm like, "Bite me. You're ugly and you're fatter than your picture." And he slammed the door. Howard's like, "What was that?" I'm like, "Yeah, you don't really want to know, do you?"
Do
And
you
then
find that places that have a history are more susceptible to having ghosts?
I think so because there's so much life and so much death. Especially, you've got buildings that are, hundreds of thousands of years old. Formations like Stonehenge. When I went there, that was quite interesting. For about 10 miles outside of Stonehenge, I could see encampments. And it was just, fires burning, people, cooking and things like that and camping, and it's like, oh, it's quite interesting. Then you get to Stonehenge and it's like, wow, this is cool. But they won't let you go up to them anymore and touch them.
Oh.
So, they won't let you do that anymore. So what I did was I took off my sandals, my bare feet on the ground. I could see everything. I could see the building of it. I could see, that they need to go down another 10 feet before they'll find anything more. Things like that. I could see it all happening. I could see the stones being placed and everything. It was quite interesting. My son's like, "What are you looking at, Mom?" I'm like, "Oh, just the past."
Mhm. Did you get a time frame when it was built?
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't really ask, and I didn't look for a time. I just know they were gatherer hunters at the encampment, and that it was used as a place for worship and a place um, to give thanks for the harvest, for the hunting, everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
There were ceremonies there.
We've got another question. So I think my house has a lot of demons. No one here ever gets along. It's like they hate seeing me wake up positive. Wow.
Well,
Maybe you ought to call June.
there's some, that they, like I said, it's like the demons like sitting the cat among the pigeons, so to speak. They can like cause problems without even attaching themselves to you. Them just being in the neighborhood will really ruin the neighborhood. And
Oh, yeah.
if you have someone who has an attachment, it doesn't just affect the individual that the demon's attached to. It affects everyone within that person's inner circle. Things start
Mm.
going bad. There starts being, fighting. Even when you've never fought before, you've never had any arguments. You wake up one morning and you want to kill your husband for no reason. And you're like, what the heck? Why am I feeling this way?
Mm-hmm.
That's them basically poking at you, causing issues.
Kind of like having PMS all the time.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
on steroids.
Yeah, it would be. Oh, my goodness. In your European travels, did you ever run across elementals that we were speaking of earlier, fairies, elves, things like that?
Oh yeah, there was quite a few of them hanging out around Rosslyn Chapel
Mm.
when I went to Scotland, and that was quite interesting. Um, we went to I have friends over there, and we went to they took me to Rosslyn Chapel, and it's like here's all these little elementals skittering all over the place. They were just happy as clams. Pixies, what people call fairies, gnomes. They're just
Mm-hmm.
like they're having a good time. And a friend of mine, my friend was her husband says like I don't believe in things like that. I said, well, come over here. And he's like, so we go into the crypt, which is in the basement of, Rosslyn Chapel.
Mm-hmm.
And he's standing over against a wall on the left side. And he says, I keep hearing these voices. Where are they coming from? I looked at him. I said, you're standing in front of a portal. You're going to hear the voices. I took a picture of it and you could see the white portal behind him. It's like, and then I took him
Oh.
outside. There's a graveyard out behind it, behind Rosslyn Chapel. And I said, you want to feel something fun? And he goes, yeah. I said, come over here and put your hand on this tombstone. And what it was, they have this huge like vessel, and it's got like a cloth draped over it, like they used to do back in the day. I said, put your hand on this vessel. And he put his hand on it. He says, it's vibrating. I said, of course. I said, there's a white portal here, a white light portal. I said, come around this way and read who's buried there. And he came around, and the guy's name was Reverend Brown. I said, see, even in death, he's heralding people to the other side. He's got the portal going on here. He's like, I've never felt anything like that before. I'm like, yeah, well, they're around.
Have you ever found anything like that in the United States?
Oh, yeah, they're all over the place. Unfortunately, there's a lot of dark portals as well. I'll come, like a person will contact me and say, I've got a lot of activity in my house and I don't understand it. And it's like, it's not bad, but it's a lot of activity. I said, well, just send me a picture of your house, the outside of your house. And he'll send me a picture. I'm like, oh, that's because in your bedroom, in the walk-in closet, there's a white light portal. I said, it's a swinging door. I said, people are coming and going. Spirits are coming and going. They're passing through. I said, so you're going to get a lot of activity. I said, I'm not going to close it. I said, but I will move it out of your house so you don't get so much activity. So I just moved the portal.
Are the portals something that would have been there before the house was constructed and is independent of the house?
Yeah, it's definitely independent, just like the dark portals. They're independent of whatever structure is there because, to the dark ones, they don't even see the structure. It's like, it's nothing. And you can see they look like funnels, like a tornado. I grew up in Kansas. It looked like a tornado. And, with the tail embedded in the ground. And so, they're fixed points. And then you go and you build on top of them. Knock that stuff off,
Well, people just don't have the power of discernment. They don't see the portals before they start building. Right. Or if they're a builder,
they think about the money, and that's all they think about.
And structures create portals?
Not unless it depends. If you're in, one of the things I learned on the other side was that intention is everything. It's like thought becomes reality in the dark realm as well as the light realm. And it is the intention behind the thought that gives it power. So if your intention, say you want to build a castle, okay? And your intention is to make it a fortress against demons or against the light, then everything that's put in, every stone you put into it is going to have that intention behind it. It's like, I'm going to build a gate, and this gate is going to be made out of stone, and it's going to keep out anything bad. So when you when you lay the bricks down or the stones down or the metal, it will absorb that intention and it will do its job.
Okay, that makes sense. Really does. You've got some books out, quite a few books out. How many have you written?
10 or 11.
Okay.
I lose count.
We've got this one. What is this about?
Demon Seer I wrote it. It took me about a year and a half to write it. It's all about how negative entities and negativity in itself affects the world that we live in right now. And there's a couple of really good chapters on, there's a chapter on protection. And there's a chapter on how to help yourself and where to find help. And Carl Johnson and his brother gave me permission to put their information in there. Father Bob Bailey, my information's in there. So a lot of different people that, will help. And so I put all that information in there. And it talks about how the demons work in the physical world and how to find, how to be able to see, quote unquote, see them.
And where can people get that book?
All my books are available on Amazon.com. They're also in Audible. They're also Audible books as well.
Oh, fantastic. I know so many people want to do the Audible books now.
Yeah.
It's much more convenient when you're, especially if you're traveling a lot.
Yeah, or you're going to work in the morning, or you have a long trip to work or back.
Yeah.
You can listen. Yeah.
And then this book, you don't have, it's not out yet, but what is it about?
It's called Return of the Demon Slayer. Okay, what it is my bio. Ariel originally had, her first life was in 1198 AD. She was sent back. A woman cried out to God and said, I'm possessed by a demon. Please help me. Okay, so God sent Ariel down. And Ariel was pissed because this woman had summoned the demon. And so she reached in and she ripped the demon out of the woman's body, and the woman died. And God said, you have no compassion for man. This isn't the first time this has happened. So your punishment is to go back and live human lives until you learn to have compassion for mankind. Well, this is life number 131. So,
Okay.
Not that she's not stubborn, because she's absolutely stubborn.
But working on it.
Yeah, but this is her last lifetime. So she's made a lot of progress in this lifetime.
My goodness. What are some of your other books?
I have, the first one I wrote was called A Medium's Guide to the Paranormal. And God said, I want you to write a book. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, I don't care what you put in it. He says, but I want you to put in there that I want people to know that I do hear their prayers, that I give people what they need, which is not necessarily what they want. He says, I don't care what else you put into it. So I put a lot of information into it, basic information into it. And then I wrote Paranormal Encounters Book 1 and 2. And those are some of my personal paranormal encounters that I've dealt with. And then I wrote one because people were after me about, I did a Body, Mind, Spirit Expo. And people were telling me, you can give a lecture. I want, talk about angels and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, everybody talks about angels. That's not what I want to talk about. So I did a lecture called The Dark Side of the Paranormal. And I was late getting into the lecture, and it was standing room only. And people were coming by after the lecture and thanking me for talking about it.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were Wiccans and things like that. We've always been told, don't think about it, don't read about it, don't, because it'll call them to you. As like I told them, I said, if they want you, they'll find you. Reading about it is not going to make any difference, plain and simple. They'll find you. And so I wrote The Dark Side of the Paranormal. It took me a little while to write it because the dark ones didn't want me to publish it because it gives away a lot of their secrets. It gives away what their fears, their weaknesses, their strengths. They don't like that stuff.
They don't want their secrets out.
No, they don't. So I wrote that one.
And those are all available at Amazon.
Yeah. And then I have Outta Time, which is a paranormal romance. It's kind of different because it's told from the view of the angels, the animals, and the humans.
Got a question from chat. One day I heard a growling that seemed to be a dinosaur. It was so scary, and I called a friend and asked if he could hear anything when I held up the receiver, and he asked what was causing the growling. Was that an evil entity checking me out? It happened in my kitchen, but there was nothing there.
Yeah, it can be. A lot of times that's a signature for them. They want to see what you're going to do if you hear it. If you say, screw you, then they'll move on.
Right. But what they're looking for is a fear reaction, right?
Yeah, yeah, they're looking for fear, they're looking for worry, anxiety, anything
Hmm.
negative like that. Then they're like, "Oh, we've got a live one." But if you just blow them off, then and it'll probably happen more than once, and just to make sure that you're not really what they want. So,
So you have been doing this for a long time and you've seen a lot of things. Is there ever anything that does unnerve you now, or are you used to it?
no, no, nothing. I've seen too many things over my 67 years. Yeah, no. I
Hmm.
mean, I've seen everything from harpies to, you know, to Lucifer himself. So,
What does Lucifer look like for real?
for real, he's about 7, 8 feet tall. He's all shades of gray and black and charcoal, and his what passes for a face has no features except eyes, and the eyes are golden. And if you look into those eyes, you'll see every evil you could ever imagine 1,000 times, worse in his eyes. That's why nobody ever wants to see what I see, because I see all of that.
When you had your out of body experience when you died in the motorcycle
Hmm.
accident, did you see heaven, hell, purgatory, any of those things?
Oh yeah, when I was at the other end of the light, Michael was there and my grandparents were there, and he's like, "Come here, I want to show you something." Michael says. So I'm like, "Okay," and this bay window magically appears, and he says, "Look down there," and I'm looking and I see the earth, and I see all these strings coming up from the earth. He says, "You see those strings that are lit up?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He says, "Those are light workers. Those are people that have made the soul connection. The ones that are dark are ones that people that are not light workers and have not made the soul connection."
Ah,
Um, I'm like, "Okay, so what about hell? Does hell exist?" And he turned me around. We walked a few steps because that's how the human mind says it happens. And he waved his arm, and this huge black opening opened up. It looked like some sort of a tar pit of some sort. The screams that were coming from it were horrific,
mm.
and you could see that there were people were reaching up trying to get help, reaching up trying to crawl out of it. And then he waved his arm and it went back. It disappeared. I said, "Okay, I get it. Downstairs is real, and so is upstairs. Okay, I get it now."
Okay, so that's a good reminder to intend to go upstairs.
Yeah, yeah. People always think you can sell your soul to the devil, but you can't. You can't sell what you don't own.
No, no. Well, gosh, this has been absolutely fascinating. Is there anything, any information or advice that you'd like to leave everybody with tonight?
The biggest piece of advice I could give is, if you see something negative or you think you see something negative, whether it's in your home or whether you're on an investigation, do not acknowledge it. To acknowledge
Mhm.
it is to make it see you, and you do not want it to see you ever.
That is good advice. And that is what I tell people as well.
Yeah,
So,
and if you think
yeah.
you do have something there, don't sage your house. If you think there's a demon in your house, don't sage, because A, they'll just laugh at you. B, it'll piss them off because they'll say, "Oh, well, they know we're here. So let's just
Mhm.
ramp things up."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I could talk to you forever. Um, there's a lot of cases that I can think of right now that I'd like to talk to you about, but we'll have to do that another time. Thank you so much for being on the show tonight, June. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I enjoyed myself.
All right. Well, this is Margie K with Unex News, and we will see you here next week.